Today we're going to talk about a topic that has sparked quite a controversy in British politics. The recent decision by the Labour Party to reverse its stance on the winter fuel payment, a financial aid program designed to help with heating costs during the winter. This issue has caused a significant uproar, especially after several Labour MPs came out defending this reversal, including James Murray, who features prominently in the clip we're about to analyze. I must warn you that the following segment is quite hard to watch, as it shows a political representative clearly cornered and challenged over his own contradictions. In this case, Murray is directly confronted by a Sky News presenter who doesn't hesitate to accuse him of lying about the true state of the British economy. According to the presenter, no one believes the promises or explanations from the Labour Party anymore, and notably even a media outlet like Sky News, which can sometimes be more lenient toward the left, is fed up with the constant falsehoods. Without further ado, let's watch this excerpt, after which I will comment on the key points that emerge from this confrontation. The debate clip plays. The interviewer starts with a direct question. Why have you decided today to change the policy on the winter fuel payment? James Murray's response begins with a financial justification, explaining that the previous year they had to make a difficult but necessary decision to stabilize public finances due to the complicated economic legacy they inherited. He points out that although progress has been made, challenges remain in the economy, but they are now in a position to adjust the eligibility threshold for heating aid based on what people have expressed. However, the interviewer remains unconvinced and counters by citing economic data that contradict Murray's version. He notes that growth forecasts have worsened since the original announcement, debt has increased, and the public is upset by the measure. He urges Murray to acknowledge the mistake and admit they were wrong. Murray insists that they can only make these changes because the economy is in better shape and that they are attentive to what people say about the eligibility threshold. The interviewer does not relent and reminds Murray that when the measure was announced in July, the growth forecast for the year was 2%, but by March it had dropped to 1%. He also mentions external factors such as Donald Trump's trade tariffs that have worsened the economic situation. For these reasons, he insists that what Murray says is not true. Murray tries to defend himself by saying that in the first quarter they had the fastest growth among G7 countries, and that the reforms they have implemented improve long-term prospects. However, the interviewer asks him to be honest and admit that the decision to reverse the policy responds more to public pressure than to real economic improvement. Murray affirms that they have been listening to the people, but the interviewer emphasizes that his arguments don't make sense. Throughout the exchange, it becomes clear that Murray is in an uncomfortable position, trying to justify a controversial decision while confronted with data and arguments that contradict him. The tone of the discussion grows increasingly tense, and the Sky News presenter doesn't hesitate to press insistently for clear answers. After watching the video, it's evident that the politician fails to convince either the interviewer or the audience of the sincerity of his words. In fact, Murray's body language and way of expressing himself convey discomfort, insecurity, and even suggest that he might be trying to convince himself of something untrue. His evasive gaze and stiff posture imply that he is hiding the truth. I want to highlight the merit of the Sky News presenter here, who dares to directly challenge a member of the Labour Party, something that is not always common in certain media outlets that tend to protect left-wing politicians. This critical and demanding attitude brings transparency and makes political debate more honest and realistic. Personally, I believe that this kind of confrontation is necessary for politicians to be held accountable to the public. In this case, the way Murray tries to justify the reversal of the winter fuel payment with economic arguments that don't hold up, alongside his obvious nervousness, clearly reveals a lack of transparency and sincerity. For many citizens, this situation reflects growing distrust toward the Labour Party and its ability to manage the economy honestly and effectively. Public policy, especially on sensitive issues like assistance for vulnerable people during winter, should not be subject to games or contradictions. Continuing with the latest news on public management in the United Kingdom, especially in London, we now focus on another issue that has sparked debate and attention: the government program offering financial incentives for migrants to voluntarily return to their countries of origin. Over the past 4 years, approximately £53 million has been allocated to this scheme, which aims to facilitate and encourage voluntary return by offering up to £3,000 per person in addition to covering flight expenses. According to official data, between 20 2021 and 2024, a total of 13,637 people accepted this aid to return home, with a notable increase in participation in recent years. In 2022, there were 2,179 participants, and by 2024, the number approached 6,799. The most common nationalities in this program include Brazilian citizens, who represent more than half of the voluntary returns in 2024, with 3,573 people, India with 915 returns, and Honduras with 271. It is worth noting that this scheme is not only offered to ordinary migrants, but is also available to certain vulnerable groups, such as victims of modern slavery, homeless individuals, or those with medical conditions, as long as they return to developing countries. Additionally, participants face temporary bans on re-entering the UK, which vary depending on their migration history and the level of support received. Such programs are not exclusive to the UK. Several European countries have similar schemes. For example, Italy offers an initial payment of €615 before travel, followed by €2,000 upon arrival, plus an additional €1,000 for family members. The official intent of the British government is that this strategy proves more cost-effective for taxpayers compared to ongoing expenses for housing and supporting irregular migrants or those undergoing deportation processes. However, this policy has also faced criticism. Organizations like Asylum Matters, which advocate for migrant rights, argue that a dignified and humane support system with specialized advice should be maintained, rather than an approach some perceive as hostile or even cruel. The suspension of funding for support services in 2015 has been questioned, as it affects the quality of assistance offered to these individuals. On another front, in London, everyday issues related to urban management and quality of life continue to generate discontent. It has been revealed that British taxpayers are spending nearly £12.9 million monthly on graffiti cleaning within London's public transport system, especially on the Bakerloo line. This amounts to about £3.2 million weekly and over £460,000 daily for cleaning services provided by ABM Facility Services. In response to this situation, some frustrated citizens took the initiative to organize a campaign to clean affected trains and stations themselves. Armed with eco-friendly products and basic materials, they managed to remove some of the graffiti, demonstrating that with willingness and minimal resources, it is possible to improve the urban environment. Transport for London officials explained that the recent increase in graffiti was partly due to a fault in a depot that prevented automatic train washing, forcing manual cleaning, a slower process. They assured that after fixing the issue, normal washing operations resumed and the overall condition of the fleet is improving. However, Londoners' frustration goes beyond transportation. The widespread perception is that the city has worsened under Mayor Sadiq Khan's administration, particularly regarding the housing crisis and the difficulty in approving tall buildings that could help alleviate the problem. Some campaign leaders claim that Khan is blocking necessary solutions and that quality of life is deteriorating. To conclude, I want to thank you for joining me in this detailed analysis of the most relevant issues affecting the UK and, in particular, London. If you found this content interesting, I invite you to support the channel by liking the video, sharing your opinions in the comments, and, very importantly, subscribing so you don't miss future updates and analyses about British politics, economy, and society. Your participation is essential for this space to continue growing so we can keep bringing you quality, up-to-date content. Don't forget to activate the notification bell to receive alerts whenever we publish something new.